John, Ravi, welcome.
Thanks,
John,
Ani. Good to be here.
hi, how are you? Thank you. Thank you for joining us and waiting for a couple of minutes. We
No
had an
worries.
overplay of time. John, are you there? Okay. Well, I am going to introduce you while we wait for John to join. Uh, Ravi is the
I
CEO.
am here.
Okay, wonderful. All right. I'll make sure.
John,
I
how are
was
you?
speaking into the Ethernet. Uh, this happens once in a while.
Yeah,
Ravi, great to see you again,
Yeah,
and really
likewise.
looking forward to your presentation. It's always so dynamic, impactful,
yeah.
and it leaves an imprint in the listeners. So
John,
you're the C.
correction.
Excuse me.
Ravi has been traveling, and today he's gonna be discussing with us, the accelerating digital transformation in self-service commerce. So there's no presentation from Ravi. It's a conversation with us.
Good.
Mhm.
So Ravi is CEO and board of director member of Cantaloupe. He's also well known in the Atlanta community, currently really for his presentations to many of the forums in Atlanta, the leadership, technology, and wellness on leadership and technology and wellness topic. It's really a pleasure to have you. You should say a few words to set the confines of your emphasis and presentation or dialogue today.
Sure. John, first of all, glad to be here and happy to share some insights. The topic of digital transformation of self-service commerce is kind of near and dear to my heart. Just as context for the audience, Cantaloupe is a public company. We are NASDAQ listed. We lead the market in North America for self-service commerce, which happens in person. So this is not e-commerce, but self-service commerce in person. So think about any place where you make a payment and you get a product or a service without a store clerk helping you. So it could be a laundromat, it could be a vending machine, it could be a kiosk-based marketplace where you grab, scan, pay, and go, but you're helping yourself. It could be a digital cart where you pick up products and there's AI-powered camera scanning it. So all those types of use cases are the space in which Cantaloupe plays a role. And I've had the pleasure of leading the company through our own digital transformation, but also being very disruptive in the industries that we serve and bringing both operational efficiency and an exceptional consumer experience there, right? So to answer your question, John, and set some confines around it, my emphasis today is going to be kind of look at a trifecta. And the trifecta is what is the consumer experience and how do you make that frictionless and how do you optimize it? Because today the consumer experience is actually not that great when it comes to self-service commerce. And I'll clarify why that is and what goes into it. So the first leg of the stool is consumer experience. The second leg of the stool is all around the operational efficiency. And think of that as the back office. What needs to happen in a supply chain? What needs to happen in warehouses? What needs to happen with field services that are people driving product around all over cities and the country and delivering things to different locations to make sure that that last mile is effective, right? And then the third part is just technology innovation and disruption. What's coming up now that's going to make the world of commerce look very different in the next 2 to 3 to 5 years than it has been historically. So those are kind of three areas I'd like to focus and maybe share some insights and answer some questions around. Okay. Any reactions or comments, John, before I kind of dive further? You're on mute, by the way.
If you could elaborate on the consumer, somebody actually muted me. If you could elaborate on the consumer experience a little bit, we have had presentations relating to AI and marketing yesterday. That would be a very nice follow-up to round off the conference topical area. You're basically positing that the consumer experience is not that great. In what sense? What can be done to improve it? And are there models other than yours that you wish to mention in passing?
Yeah. Yeah. And look, for me, I always like to look at what technology can do and what businesses can do by seeing how it impacts people in their day-to-day, right? And so the story is from the field, so to say, and I'll share a couple of them with you. One is, I was talking to a friend of mine, investment banker, really smart individual in New York, and the day after Thanksgiving needed to grab a pack of batteries, right? Because something wasn't working in the house, a toy wasn't working in the house for the kid. So heads out to a nearby Walgreens, takes a full hour to just go in there, get a pack of batteries, come back home. Well, you ask me why? One, you know, the store's set up poorly in terms of just the layout. So it takes time to find the product. Two, everything is locked up now because retail theft has been ticking up. It used to be 2-3%, it's now 5-6%. And that's a world over phenomenon, not just a US or a North America phenomenon, right? And then the third factor is labor shortage. So there isn't, there aren't enough store clerks to go around. So now you got somebody who's gone, they're trying to pick up a product which is locked up, and they're waiting 20 minutes for somebody to come and unlock it and give it to them. This is to just get batteries. I can tell you the same story about trying to find razor blades and trying to find, I can go on and on and on, right? The way retail is working in person, especially, is bad, which is why people prefer e-commerce. But e-commerce has its own set of challenges, which we'll get to in a second, right? So not everybody is as at ease and as comfortable and as fluent with using the changing paradigms of how different sites work for e-commerce. So it's not like that's the easiest thing to use either. So that's a little bit on the friction that's there on consumer experience. Second story, if you've recently been to a department store or a larger store and you've tried to check out on the self-checkout lanes, where you can grab, scan, pay, and like essentially scan and pay, what you will find is that the queues are longer and the system is not optimized. And the reason is the shopping has now changed from 100% being the end consumer to now almost 60% of the shopping is done by professional shoppers. So think of your friendly Instacart person or somebody else who's doing. So there's a lot of shopping that's happening, which is professional shoppers. And the self-checkout experience is not optimized for them, for high velocity, high volume product. It's optimized more for a consumer who would go and pick up a few things and check out and doesn't mind spending 15 minutes there or 10 minutes. So that's the other. These are things where businesses change, the paradigm of how things work have changed, but the infrastructure has not kept up, right? So those are two stories that give you kind of where the consumer friction comes from. And then I'll get to, how the solve works and how the operational efficiencies and the technology innovation can help. But any comments or questions so far, John?
No, you have defined the challenge. What are the solutions that you can evoke, and what are the solutions that your company brings to the table
Yeah.
to reduce the time expended, the energy expended, and can you offer a cost-benefit ratio that's tilted in the benefit side for your potential customer?
Yeah. So, and the answer is yes, yes, and yes. But here are the specifics, right? So number one, I think the way commerce has historically been done, there has always been a problem of product identification at scale. And to say that in plain English, the reason self-service commerce is so hard is because, whether it's whether it's a pack of bread or milk or potato chips or whatever it is, the way the product is identified has historically been barcodes, QR codes, RFIDs, all these types of technologies, which are slow. because you are now scanning invariably, right? It doesn't matter whether a retail store clerk is doing it or a consumer is doing it themselves. They're scanning, and that scanning is not always super reliable. I mean, think about your own experience as a consumer. How many times you've gone to a store and you brought a bunch of products in and you're trying to scan, and that one product is just not scanning, and you do it like 3 different ways and then call somebody for help, right? Well, guess what? Now, with artificial intelligence and computer vision having finally reached a level where they are smart enough to detect a product and very, very accurately, that offers one solve. The other solve is load-bearing cells, which can be placed on shelves, which are smart shelves, and that can detect to a minutest level what product is placed on the shelf. And I'm talking about you can put a single tic tac on a shelf and it'll detect that there is a tic tac on that shelf just based on the weight. So the combination of weight detection technology and computer vision with AI has now solved for the problem of product detection at scale. One of the products that Cantaloupe offers, our company, is called Smart Store. And the Smart Store is an example of this type of experience. You will find them now in transit locations, in hospitals, hotels, assisted living centers, all kinds of places, fitness centers, and they're selling all kinds of products. They're selling, pickleball rackets at a fitness center. They're selling military equipment at a military base and all kinds of things. And the experience is as follows. Consumer walks up to the storefront, which is locked by default. It's glass front. They tap a card, it unlocks. They pick up their product and walk away. It's that simple. The tap of a credit card is the payment. And then it unlocks, they open. Whatever product they take out is automatically detected and shown on a screen that they see. So they get immediate visual reinforcement of, hey, you took this product. And if they change their mind and put the product back in, it disappears off the screen. So they know they've returned that product. So it's a super frictionless, seamless experience. So that's the solve. It also reduces theft. In all the places where we've deployed it, what we've seen is theft goes from, in some cases, it's as high as 10%, and it goes instantly to 0%. So again, our solution is one example. There are many examples that I can go through, and I'll go through a couple of other industry solutions as well. But the concept is that we're now using computer vision, AI, and weight detection to take friction out of the buying experience. And that, to me, is a perfect example of digital transformation of self-service commerce, right? That's kind of the bringing it back to our topic. I'll pause for a moment if there are any comments and then go into a couple of other use cases.
I wanted to ask you a follow-up question. You mentioned military bases, which usually have PX or BXs, but assuming these were done away with, you would offer then the smart store. But the smart store would offer a limited range of products, or it would be targeted at a subpopulation that would have typical, predictable demands, right? So how do you expand that to a multiplicity of product as opposed to have a hospital context specific situation where obviously people are not going to be buying milk or eggs or tennis rackets? I don't think so. Or a military base where the product needed are more typical and really fit a profile.
No,
How
it's
do
a
you
great
expand that?
question.
Yeah.
It's a great question. And that's where I think AI is coming to play in a big way. So today, we can, I'm again going back to our smart store example, but you can apply it to many other such products. You can sort of flip it into operator mode, like for the business, and say, hey, I now have a new product, and you can take pictures from multiple angles and key in certain parameters, and voila, your new product is now ready to sell at that storefront, right? So there is a way to train the AI model to learn new products, which has become better and better. In the early days when this sort of product came into being, I remember you used to have to take a product and take pictures from 100 different angles, and you used to have to take 300 pictures before it could reliably recognize that product, or weigh it from multiple angles as well. Now it's a 1 minute process to train the system on a new product, like literally under a minute. And I think it'll get better and better as we go along. So to the extent that you can kind of show a product and key in a couple
Yeah,
of parameters around it, or even speak the
yeah.
input for those parameters.
I, I, is the smart shelf as an innovation better suited for specific product lines, like, for example, an airport and perfumes or cologne,
Mhm.
which is not an unusual purchase in an airport context? Would you do better with product specificity than a multiplicity of products? Like you would have your smart shelf just offering a range of perfumes, either as gifts or for use or whatever, for arriving or departing passengers.
Yeah, so the technology has now reached a point where you can do all of it, where you can have a more homogeneous product set or a more heterogeneous product set, and it works equally well. I'll give you a couple of other examples, and I intentionally want to use a product that's not our company. So, to be fair to kind of the industry and the transformation that's happening. So, there's a product called MashGen, a company called MashGen, and the product they've innovated is called a digital cart. And the way the digital cart works, you'll see them at airports, you'll see them at stadiums, you'll see them in various locations. It's basically a flat kind of plate, and there is cameras around it, which are AI powered. And you have products that are out in open shelves. So you bring the products that you want, a basket of them, and you just put them on the shelving essentially. And because the cameras are all around it, it immediately detects everything that you've bought, and then you just tap your card, check out, and off you go. So what it does is it prevents the need for scanning. So that's another type of the difference between a smart store and the digital cart is smart store is great for low trust environments where you want to make sure that there's no theft happening.
Mhm.
And the digital cards are great for high trust environments where you know that theft is not a risk, or maybe you have one store clerk watching over five of these smart cards or digital cards. And so in those types of circumstances, it lends itself to high velocity of checkout. It's also great for professional shoppers. So you're going to see them, and this company has deployed them already in 7-Elevens and places like that where you have high velocity purchases happening, and so you don't bottleneck the process because people have to scan products.
Yeah. You mentioned a trifecta: consumer experience, not that great, operational efficiency, supply chain, but I don't think you gave us number three, or if you did, I missed it.
And number three was the technology innovation.
Okay.
What has
Technology.
been made possible by AI and what has been made possible by sort of some of the newer stuff that's come in. And I want to paint a picture for what the future commerce storefront is going to look like, which will be hybrid. And even the lines are blurring between what we consider e-commerce and physical commerce. So when you turn the clock forward kind of 3 to 5 years, you're going to have these experiences where people can order ahead, people can sort of partially place an order on a kiosk, they can pick up in person. So those
Mhm.
worlds are really blurring, and that's
Uh,
kind of the third leg of the stool.
yeah. Would you say that Japan is ahead of the game in terms of these related technologies?
For sure. It's been a market where, especially for smart vending, they've
Mhm.
created machines that can, anything from ramen noodles to high-end cosmetics to pharmaceuticals. They've kind of created these robotic machines that can vend anything, and they can do it indoors or outdoors. I think Europe and North America, we're just catching up with that
Mhm.
trend, and now you see a farmer's fridge at the airports where you can get fresh food, and it's off a machine, and it's easy and convenient. So those types of paradigms are coming in. But yes, Japan is certainly very advanced when it comes to this.
Well, let us say you expanded that to luxury goods, jewelry, watches, and
Mm.
related. Is that a possibility? Because you reduce theft is one of the selling points. Is it already taking place for luxury goods?
A
For
little
example,
bit.
you enter a store like Harrods in London or Galeries
Yeah,
Lafayette in Paris
yeah,
or Bloomie's in New York, and
yeah,
you're just interested in watches and you don't want to really mingle and go from one floor to another and be caught in the trap of a luxury store. So
yeah,
you go to the display machine and you look
yeah.
at what's offered and you proceed. Is that a possible?
I think it is possible and it's a phenomenal idea. We haven't got that yet, right? It's still early days for this paradigm of true digital transformation in the self-service commerce space, but that's coming, and those products are great candidates to kind of fit into this paradigm. The other thing which is interesting is the consumer preference. You know, one, every consumer wants friction taken out of the purchase experience, right? Because you want that to be easy, and the more businesses can take friction out, the more consumers are going to purchase. They're going to do better, right? That's just 101. The second aspect is, especially Gen Z and the newer generations of consumers, they have higher level of privacy concerns. You know, I'm way less sensitive to who is watching what I buy and who knows what I buy and who's watching me buy it than my niece who's 16 years old and who really doesn't want anybody knowing what she's purchasing, right? So there's a little bit of that. And the self-service commerce equipment-based approach where there's no store clerk involved, where there's the checkout is frictionless, it also addresses that privacy concern.
Yeah. But I mean, you are using a card with some identifiers of one kind or another. Uh, so in terms of techno innovation, are you doing, is your company doing a lot of research, field research or
Yeah,
technological related research?
yeah, both.
What's the thinking what are some of the leading ideas?
Yeah, both, right? We focus a lot on the consumer behavior and the consumer experience, but we also focus a lot in terms of operationally what can we do in the background to make things more efficient for the business, right? Which is kind of the second leg of the stool. And there, what we do is we look at how can supply chain go all the way from a manufacturer to a consumer and the workflow be integrated across multiple businesses. And to just, boil that down, if you think about, let's say, a retail store that's selling clothes, right? A small boutique. Now, you could have a complex supply chain where and it could be multi-country as well, that there's some manufacturing happening in Bangladesh, for example, and the clothes are being shipped in containers across the sea, and then they are brought to a port, and then from the port they get to a warehouse. From the warehouse they get to a distributor, and then from the distributor they get to this retail store. When you get an end-to-end view of this supply chain by enabling it technologically, and optimize it in a manner where ultimately the product reaches the store and gets stocked in a manner where people who are stocking it are getting there exactly when there is enough stock that's been depleted. So they are not wasting a trip because shelves are already full, nor are they getting there when the shelves have been empty for 3 days and they've lost sales. That optimization really helps businesses. So that is vertical specific software, including like what Cantaloupe provides, that is able to cross the boundaries of businesses. So it's B to B to B and cross partners through integrations and kind of optimize the workflow across warehouses, across distributors, and across retailers, right? So that's the second aspect of what makes that commerce, what's true digital transformation for that commerce to happen.
What about tailor-made products where you would be ordering from an originator of the product?
Great question. Because if you think about the consumer experience again, there is this trend of mass customization is what I call it, right? So you can create mass market products and yet customize it to all the way to the preferences of a single individual. And it's applicable for food, it's applicable for shoes, it's applicable for clothes, any products, right? But if the technology is seamlessly knit across that supply chain, then I can go to this app or site and say, you know what, I want my shoe to have a high arch and I want it to be, a softer sole and I want this combination, click, and it flows all the way through, and they're manufacturing and they're not over manufacturing. So again, I think that end-to-end kind of I don't want to call it an ERP system because it oversimplifies it, but enterprise software that's vertical specific that can then create this seamless experience all the way through, right?
Do you have resort to generative AI to come up with upstream, downstream applications to your
Yeah.
core?
And I think that's a good place to kind of summarize and bring all this to
Yes.
home. That's the third leg of the stool, which is, AI, particularly generative AI, has really changed the game. And now we are able to create models that are more self-learning, more adaptive, and are able to kind of automatically tailor the offerings and the flows to consumer needs, and then flow it all the way through across the back end operations of a business. So, that's the real transformation. And I think 3 years down the line, you'll see whether it's ghost kitchens for food or whether it's, micro manufacturing for furniture or, custom design shops for interior decor products, all these. Now you're going to have a situation where, the supply chain is not getting in the way. You can have manufacturing where it makes the most sense, design where it makes the most sense, production where it makes the most sense, and flow it all seamlessly. So in that sense, yeah, generative AI is a big game changer for how enterprise software is going to work across this. So I think it's an exciting future that we are headed to, and ultimately the consumer wins, and ultimately businesses get more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the view of the major grocery stores, such as a Kroger or a Publix or other chains, because they have a few machines set up outside the perimeter, outside
Yeah.
of the cash register machine?
Yeah, I think retail layouts are going to drastically change. People are going to have to really rethink how that layout works, how the consumer goes through it. So even from a physical structure, if you think about it, the traditional kind of retail store experience hasn't changed in a couple of centuries. It's now ripe for disruption and ripe for change with all this technology coming in. So I can see an experience where it's more digital lockers, more smart stores like the ones we do, more digital carts, and all of them set up in convenient locations around a store, and multiple avenues to kind of come in and out, and not have to go from one end to the other. So I think the storefront of the future is going to look very different from how it looks today.
Well, we have reached the end, and I knew you would give a great presentation, and I have a lot more questions because you're a disruptor, so it's always nice to listen to disruptors.
I
Gives us a
appreciate
sense
that.
of what's coming. Thank you so much.
John,
What is the website for your company? If I just because
Yeah,
we have some listeners who asked.
yeah,
it's cantaloupe.com, and cantaloupe just like the fruit.
Yeah,
Uh, but cantaloupe.com is our website, and you can find a lot of information about these products
right.
and the
Thank you
disrupt.
so much. Very grateful. Much
John,
appreciative. Have a
John,
great afternoon.
let me say thank you to Ravi also, but I would like him to address one question which we have in Q&A.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
Ravi, there? Yeah, Ravi.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So the question is from Amit Jain. How's cost benefit with weight bearing smart racks for hosting such SKUs and any extra hardware to process detect cards?
Yeah, it's actually really, really good. The benefit comes in two ways. One is just the sheer cost of not having to have a store clerk. But the more important benefit is because the consumer experience is so frictionless, in places where we've deployed smart stores, their space to sales ratio has got optimized to an extent where, if that location is doing, I'm making this up, a couple of $1,000 in business, it starts doing 3 times that once they deploy this technology. So it's a win-win from both angles.
See, great. Well, as usual, your presentation, your remarks are fantastic. We got very good views about it, and we thank you for your time, Ravi, and look forward to staying connected for our future events.
Well, thank you, Annie. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Great to see you.